and very progressive. And sometimes as you get to certain regions of the province, it may not be as great as you would want them to. But the point is, if you're meeting some resistance, bring it to the general meeting. Force a debate so that the executive takes a position and that you are not silenced. So make sure that if there's opposition at your local level, bring it to the general meetings where they are debated. I'm going to stop there. Thank you.
So, can I jump in? I just wanted to respond to one of the questions, which was, what can our agencies do? Toronto Public Health is a huge agency. And in Toronto Public Health, the people who do the sexual health promotion work, there are over 30 of us. One of the things that we've done is we've created philosophy and guiding principles, which are now going out to everyone in public health. So we started with people who do the sexual health promotion work, and then slowly these philosophy and guiding principles have gone out to all people in public health, and obviously starting with the people who have anything at all to do with sexuality education. And one of the, under the guiding principles, one of the things that we say is that we are advocates. What that means is that from the front line, we can send up to the medical officer of health our advocacy issues, and we do, especially people who have been politicized from early on. I mean, I've been doing progressive politics one way or another since the late 60s, and so that's part of my experience, is to advocate and ensure that the medical officer of health is going to stand up and be counted when the shit hits the fan. When the shit hit the fan with Charles McFeety and StopCorruptingOurChildren.ca, being one of the major corruptors of children for many years, by teaching them about pleasure, heaven forbid, and teaching them that it was okay to be who you are, the day that McGinty pulled the revised curriculum, we immediately got on the blower to the medical officer of health and had a meeting on the phone with him so that he would be ready with a statement for the newspapers as soon as possible. And he did a very good job of defending the revised curriculum. So I think that in our agencies, open your mouth. You know, if you're not afraid to open your mouth, then do it and advocate. And if you're afraid to open your mouth, there's always other ways to do it. In regards to teaching teachers, that is something that Toronto Public Health has been doing, again, for decades. We know that teachers don't learn how to teach sexuality education. So in a number of different ways, we try to support this. I personally go to OISE, and I have the opportunity to talk to teachers in training. We also have people going to other schools where they're learning how to teach sexuality education. And also we organize meetings with teachers, and we do training for them to help them, to assist them with the program. Because it's not just the comfort is a huge part of it, but nobody has taught them how you help kids understand these issues. So these are all things that are ongoing.
So I just have a few comments. The question is, to who do you call? And I was so tempted to say Ghostbusters, but certainly Chair's vision and EGAL as practical sources for help for kids on how to set up. The comment about corporate Canada and corporate social responsibility unfortunately tends to fall into the bottom line. And corporations will step in, I suspect, when they feel that there is some kind of benefit to their bottom line or good imaging. Children or young people and sexuality doesn't always play into that good imaging and selling product sort of capacity, except when it's in their advertising. I wanted to make a comment about, taxing churches or religious institutions to their end. I actually do consider myself religious, but maybe other people wouldn't consider me religious. But I don't hate religion, and I think that there is great strength potentially in religion, and particularly in spirituality, because I don't think the two are also the same thing. because you can have spirituality without religion, and a lot of people unfortunately have religion without having spirituality. But I think it's also important for educators in the school system to identify spaces and places which have more inclusive visions. And so one of the teachers, for example, was talking about teaching in North York. Well, the Noor Cultural Center is a really cool Muslim space that is welcoming of everybody, including queers and non-Muslims, even during services. So, you know, why not look for places like that? And they exist in every faith tradition. They might be harder to find. There might not be a lot of them, but there are there. And expose your students to those kinds of positive images, because no religion is a monolith, not Catholicism, not Islam, no particular faith tradition. I also wanted to address the issue of safety and sort of coming out. Not everybody has the same privileges in society. And that includes teachers, and that includes educators and all sorts of people. Not everybody has the luxury of having an accepting family or an accepting community, and people may not be able to take positions in public because it might be dangerous for them. I was asked to come and speak to a school and talk about my experiences about being a gay Muslim man, because there's a lot of Muslim kids in the school and homophobia is a problem there, including with some of the Muslim kids. And my response is, well, a lot of those kids are just simply going to say that I'm not Muslim. And my voice will have no merit and no impact on them whatsoever. They'll just dismiss me. What might work better is an imam or somebody who's you know, from their ethno-racial religious community, who might have a better voice, who might actually, may not have sort of dealt with his or her homophobic demons, but who might actually have an equity perspective or analysis which might sort of put out some fires and at least sort of quell some of the issues that are going on. So that's just some comments I had.
I'm actually going to add to El Farouk's Who Can I Call list. So I'm going to say PFLAG and the Parenting Network also send out posters, Queering the Family Tree, Fabulous Fathers and the Parenting Network, That's So Gay, Is That So Yesterday from PFLAG. School newsletter, community newsletter, national newspapers. Media attention is a great way of shaming people into doing the right thing. Talk to your allies in the school. Is there a social justice league? Is there an equity club? Is there a diversity club? Are they truly equitable and diverse if they exist? Borrow from Americans. The GSA network and GLSEN in the States both have some great resources. Find your political allies, whether that be your trustee, your counselor, your MP, your MPP. And I would also say that the LGBTQ Youth Line may be able to help connect you up in Ontario. And don't just call one person and wait for them to call you back or give you an answer before you call the next person. Keep calling again. Call Tuesday morning, call Tuesday afternoon, text on your lunch break. Those calls really, really matter. And then to Faith, I want to say I spent a lot of time in schools coming out as both queer and trans. Please come out as queer with me in Halton. We'd love to have your company.
Halton?
Yeah?
Come to the jail.
We can work on it.
Okay.
I just wanted to add some comments about unions and in terms of the work that unions are doing. I do think, you know, at the same time, it is really important that we speak for ourselves. And, you know, as some of the youth talked about Harvey Milk and being the first out person running. I think that's really, really important. I think it's important in unions as well, too. Unions have not always been spaces and continue not to always be spaces of inclusivity and replicate a lot of the biases and discrimination. Yes, absolutely, I feel proud to be a union member. At the same time, there's a lot of work to be done, and I do think that we need to be out, and we need to be proud, and we need to be running so that our voices are included in the decision making, and you know, something that the brother was talking about, he's gone now, but talking about in York Region, and absolutely bring things to general meetings. But I think, you know, get people to run, organize, and strategize to make sure that you always have a voice at the table. Designated seats as well, too, for, again, not just LGBT people, but also for racialized people, for Aboriginal people, for people with disabilities, and so on, to make sure that we have all voices at the table so, you know, we can have justice.
I have very little to add to what was said, but I did want to reiterate a point that Marchese made because I think it's so important. important. The government, even in the ruling party, not to mention the opposition parties, can't do what they need to do without pressure from the public to do it. They need to be forced, and whether that's getting the word out through some of the things that were talked about. I mean, it's never been easier to get the word out. You use Facebook, you use Twitter, and you ask your friends to do the same. There are easy ways of communicating. You don't have to own a newspaper anymore. But write to the newspaper, write to the members of parliament, write to the premier, tell your friends to do the same. There are ways of putting pressure on the government.
Deaf government that's choosing not to do anything about helping these kids get their GSA, and we'll make them listen. So, I'd like to take this opportunity again to thank our sponsors, the Canadian Auto Workers, the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario, the Ontario Secondary School Teachers Federation, the Toronto District School Board Gender-Based Violence Prevention Office, the Supporting Our Youth, our community media sponsor, Extra, who's been live streaming all night, which is great. It's been given the opportunity to people elsewhere in Ontario to be able to engage in these conversations. I'd like to thank our supporters, the LGBTQ Parenting Network, the People for Education, the York Youth Sexuality Studies Department, and the Marcus Bonham Center for Sexuality Studies. I'd also like to thank all the QO people who are here volunteering and helping out. And I'd like to thank the audience. I've been following along on Twitter, the hashtagging, and usually I'm kind of a prolific tweeter myself, and I have said nothing this whole forum. But thankfully, all of you have said a lot, so great job. And thank you for being such a patient audience and for really engaging in this issue and really being supportive. We really appreciate it, and don't let this energy die. I mean, these kids are so awesome, and I said it already, but these kids are so awesome, and they need our support. We need to put ourselves out there. We need to say, we're here to support you, and we're going to help you, and you're going to get your GSAs. So thank you very much, and have a great night.
Amazing.